The New Orleans Saints 2025 schedule has been released, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it at length. We're also going to take a look at odds for the entire season. We're going to break down the games that make sense, that don't make sense. We're going to have a little discussion here on a Friday morning. All right, I'm filming this pretty early, so enjoy yourself, get a cup of coffee, and let's have it. Let's have a Friday, huh? Okay, real quick. First thing about the schedule: no primetime games. Now, of course, I think there's 3 teams this year that don't have primetime games, maybe 4. And as a fan, you want to play on primetime. It's cool. Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. But I don't think it's a negative. I don't think it's like, well, the Saints don't have primetime games, so that's bad. It's actually kind of inherently good because for what the Saints are doing, they get some real consistency. Right, their game prep is the same every week. They know they're playing on Sunday. They know they have blanket amount of days of prep. They can kind of go through the same thing over and over. And for a young team, for a team that's trying to instill a new offense, a new defense, a new culture, a new identity, it is kind of a positive that they don't have to worry about traveling internationally. They don't have to worry about playing on a Thursday, flying back, then playing on the next Monday or something. They don't have to worry about those weird things that happen. All right, it's very difficult. If you go back and look at first-year head coaches, they usually do poorly on short rest weeks because they're not used to it, right? They're not used to how it works. So it actually kind of works out in the Saints' favor, even though it kind of sucks as a fan. So just want to put that to bed. Now let's look at the actual schedule. All right, so we start at home, Arizona, San Francisco, go on the road, Seattle, Buffalo. That is an insane travel spot to go to Seattle, then come back, then play the early game in Buffalo. Brutal. That's a ton of mileage in 2 weeks. Then we play at home, the Giants, the Patriots, on the road at the Bears, at home, the Bucks. First divisional game is week 8, kind of late. Oh, that rhymed. The Rams on the road, Panthers on the road, bye week, late bye week. Falcons in the Dome, Dolphins on the road in November. That's okay. The Heat, not that it really matters when we're from Louisiana, but Heat, get them in November, that's okay. On the road, Tampa, at home, Carolina, at home, the Jets, and then the last 2 games on the road. So that also kind of sucks as a fan. If you go to games that you finish the home stretch, with 2 games left in the season. Also to note, it also sucks to have 4 afternoon kickoffs at home. Patriots, Bucks, Falcons, and Panthers all being afternoon kicks. As someone who goes to the home games, I can tell you, noon kick is the absolute greatest. Afternoon kick absolutely sucks. It is awful. So the fact that half the home games are afternoon kicks sucks. All right, so let's look at the spread. Let's look at the odds. Let's look at the lines. Now, it's important to remember, ladies and gentlemen, these will change. These are just a blanket number. They will change dramatically. All right, so don't get too attached to the number, but it is important just to know the data points, and we're going to use those to kind of compare. Now, we're going to get kind of deep into the weeds here on how this works. Now, think about it like this, all right? The odds, the spread, is basically how teams are power rated. So if the Saints are at home against, we're just going to make this up. Let's say they're at home against the Bucks and the Falcons, and in both games, the Saints are +4, okay? That also means that the Falcons and the Bucks are power rated equally, all right? So you can use it to kind of cross-reference, and it helps you look at the entire league as a whole. All right, so first game of the year, we are 3.5-point favorites against the Cardinals. Also important, let's just have a universal truth that home field advantage is worth 2 points. All right, it might be a little bit high. It's actually probably closer to 1.5 points, 1.75 points nowadays, but just for the sake of talking, we'll do 2. All right, so what does that mean? That means on a neutral, the Saints would be +5.5. All right, that means in Arizona, okay, you flip it, right? So you take the 2 points away for the Saints. So now it goes to 5.5. and then it goes an additional 2 points for the Cardinals being at home. All right, so the Cardinals, if they were at home, would be 7.5 point favorites. All right, shows you how fast this stuff moves. As I'm doing the video, they take the Saints Cardinals game off, so they're going to move it to 4 or 4.5 because it was 3.5. Now it's 4.5 at FanDuel. It's 4.5 at Caesar. So DK is going to move it to 4.5. That's what's going on. So it's all a very fluid situation. All right, but we'll continue the conversation. Saints at home +7 against the 49ers. On the road +7 against the Seahawks. Now this is interesting, okay, because this is a good example of how you can cross-reference. So if the Saints are at San Francisco, this is like it's like an 11-point spread, okay? So you're telling me that San Francisco is that much better than Seattle? No, right? If Seattle was playing San Francisco on a neutral, I mean, we can just look it up. But let's just see what they have for Seattle and San Francisco. Okay, so this is a good way to cross. All right, so I mean, they do kind of have. I mean, they do have Seattle or San Francisco power rated way better than Seattle. I mean, at Seattle and Frisco's a 1.5 point favorite. That is pretty sporty. So that kind of lines up. But I think that's out of whack. All right, so the 49ers game is one that I would circle as, okay, that number's kind of out of whack. All right. Even the Cardinals number, it's like, are the Cardinals that much better? Now, what does this mean? You can see the direct correlation. This means that the books believe that San Francisco is 2.5 points better than Arizona. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let's keep going. Buffalo, 13.5 point favorite. The Giants. This is another one where it's like, okay, the Saints are +1.5 against the Giants at home. Now the Giants do have Russell Wilson theoretically starting, so all right, I can live with that one. Patriots -3 on the road is nuts, I think. I mean, this is a team like the Patriots were 4-13 last year. All right, now the Patriots might have got better, whatever, but the idea that they're a 3-point dog or a 3-point favorite on the road is pretty wild. Because again, this means in New England, this is like a 6.5, 7-point spread. You know, should New England be? This also puts New England kind of basically at the same power ranking as Seattle. You know, Seattle was almost a playoff team last year. All right, so I don't know. Like Seattle was a 10-win team. New England was a 4-win team? A 4-win team. So, like, those are the things where something's not right. All right, either New England's power rated too high, Seattle's power rated too low, or the Saints are power rated too low. Like, something's not adding up. All right, I don't think New England and Seattle are the same. Maybe it's just me, but we'll continue. Bears at home, -8.5. Again, this means the Bears are, let's see. This means the Bears are, I wish there was other teams we could look at here. It's messing me up how they're taking games off as we're looking at this because it makes it difficult to like cross-reference and go back and forth. All right, so DK just updated a bunch of their win totals again, so now there's like 15 games on the board. Okay, if the Bears are 8.5 points, an 8.5 point favorite at home, then that means if the Bucks are 9.5 points, that means that Vegas thinks the Bucks are 1.5 points better than the Bears. I don't know about that. Like again, some of these cross references don't really work, especially when you look at this. All right, so if you look at the regular season win totals, the Bears are an 8-win team, according to FanDuel, because they're over 8.5 wins is +120. They're under 8.5 wins is -140. All right, the Buccaneers are a 9-win team. Okay, they're over 9.5 win teams is +100. They're under 9.5 win teams is -120. Okay, so they're a full win better than the Bears, which to me, I don't know if 1.5 points, like, is that enough, right? Same with, like, what's New England? New England is New England is supposed to be an 8-win team, which again is a lot, I think. Tennessee is supposed to be a 6-win team, 6 or 7-win team. Some of these numbers are out of control. But okay, Tennessee's perfect. Like, they're supposed to be a 6 or 7-win team, not over 7. Okay, somewhere in between 6 and 7. All right, they're supposed to be over 5.5, but way under 7.5. But if you look at the Saints-Titans spread, the Titans are minus 3.5. Okay, granted that's at home, so I guess that's whatever. But if the Saints are a 5.5-ish win total team, the Titans are a 6.5-ish win total team, these numbers seem a little crazy. All right, let's keep going. Let's just go through. So we've got, where do we leave off? Chicago. So Chicago on DraftKings is a 7.5 point favorite at home. Saints are plus 5.5 against the Bucks. They are 9.5 point dogs against the Rams. They are 4.5 point dogs on the road to Carolina. They are 2.5 point dogs at home against the Falcons. They are 6 point dogs on the road against Miami. 9.5 point dogs on the road to Tampa. 1.5 point dogs to Carolina. Which, what were we on the road to Carolina? 4. Okay, that makes sense. We are, the only game the Saints are favored is at home against the Jets. 1.5 point favorites against the Jets. Okay. Which means the Jets and the Saints are basically the same as far as like power rankings, as far as how they're viewing everybody. And this is about right? Like 1.5. If home field advantage is 1.5 to 2, then this means on a neutral, it'd be just a pick 'em. Okay. Then 3.5 on the road to Tennessee. I think that number is crazy. I mean, Tennessee was 3-14. They were the worst team in the NFL. How good do we think Cam Ward is? If Cam Ward is not good or a bust or struggles or whatever, this number is insane. Okay. And then plus 4.5 on the road against Atlanta. So this, if we're just looking at the odds, all right, if we are just looking at the odds, this squarely puts the Saints, I think, as the worst team in the NFL, or one of the worst teams in the NFL. Certainly one of, but probably the worst. Let's look at Cleveland. So let's see, is Cleveland favored in any games? Let's see. All right, so they're 5. So we have a similar opponent in New England. So they're plus 5.5 on the road to New England. And this seems off. All right, because what are the Saints? What are we against New England? At home, we're 3. So they're on the road 5.5. Yeah, so like this is off, I think. Because this means we'd be like 7 point dogs on the road to New England. 6.5 point dogs somewhere in there to New England. Which would then mean we're a point or a 1.5 points worse than Cleveland. Which, yeah, right. All right, that's not the case. Okay. So that's a number I think's off. Now here's the question you got to ask yourself. Is it off in this game? Should the Patriots be favored more against Cleveland? Or is it off in this game where the Saints should be under 3 against New England at home? Okay, so that's how you can kind of get after this. What I would do right now, I'd play both sides. I'd take the Saints plus 3 in this game, and I would go back here and I would take New England, whatever it was, minus 5.5 against the Browns. Okay, so let's keep going with the Browns. So the Browns are 2.5 point dogs against the Jets. Okay. Which lines up, kind of. 8.5 points against the Ravens. at home. All right, so this is where you can cross-reference again. You can take a look at games where the Saints are like plus 8.5 or worse at home. Which, let's see. I think some of the Bucs ones. Let's see. This is the kind of stuff you got to do, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. Where are the Saints Bucs? Plus 5.5. Okay, so we don't have any games where we're that big of dogs at home, which is good. Which is good, thank God. All right, let's go back to the Browns. This is a free-flowing conversation, ladies and gentlemen. The Browns are plus 5.5 at home against the Bengals. Okay, let's keep that one in mind, because I know the Saints were. What are we against the Bucs at home? Plus 5.5. So they're saying. So this is saying that there is the same difference between the Bengals and the Browns as there is between the Bucs and the Saints. I don't know. Seems a little controversial to me. If you look at a team like let's do the Titans. So the Titans, how many times are they favored? Let's see. So the Titans are plus 1.5 against the Seahawks at home. Okay. But see, like this is controversial too. Because this means on a neutral field, they're relatively the same. Which, I mean, I just don't think the Titans are that much better. I mean, think about how good Cam Ward would have to be for the Titans, the 3-14 Titans, who were absolutely horrible last year. 3-14 to be basically the same as Seattle. It seems off. And you got 6-11 San Francisco. I understand there were injuries, but you have 6-11 San Francisco, power rated way higher than Seattle. And I know I keep talking about Seattle is because of the common opponent. It's nothing about Seattle specifically, but all right. So Jacksonville and Tennessee are pretty similarly power rated. Tennessee, Denver. Okay, Denver. All right, the Rams at Tennessee. So you got to look for like common opponents, common situations. You got to look for all that. I don't know. I think some of these are off. I mean, the ones I think are off is San Francisco in the Dome giving up 7 points. I think it's a lot. I think the Patriots one is crazy. I think the Saints being 3-point dogs at home to New England, nuts. Like Bryce Young laying 4.5 points to anybody seems like a lot. I think the Titans one is crazy. I think the Saints plus 3.5 against Tennessee is insane. Again, I'm not saying like Tennessee. I'm not saying that the Saints are better than Tennessee, but the idea that Tennessee is just all of a sudden so good and not only are they winning games, but they're covering numbers seems like a lot to me. So, I mean, I don't really tie up capital like this as far as like betting this far into the future on some games, but you know, if you're looking to play numbers early, I would absolutely get some of these early. I would absolutely get a hold of, especially some of these key numbers like 3.5. I would absolutely take a look at that. And it's also interesting how bad this makes the Jets. Because if the Jets are, like, what's the Jets win total? So the Jets win total is 6. Yeah, it's 6 or 7. So you got they're supposed to go over 5.5 wins, but they're supposed to be well under 7.5 wins. So you see their floor and you see their ceiling. Okay, 6 or 7. And you look at Cleveland, and they're supposed to be under 5 wins, right? So some of these are not adding up. The Bengals are supposed to be 10 wins. You know, so like this makes like I said, this isn't really adding up here. What are the Falcons? Falcons are supposed to be 8 wins. Yeah, I mean, I think they got some of this out of whack. I think they're pricing, from what it looks like to me, they're overpricing these young quarterbacks. The Patriots is like, okay, I can see if you think Drake May took a step forward, Mike Vrabel's the man. I can see all that. But Tennessee and Cleveland, for Tennessee, I mean, that is a crazy jump. I don't care how good you think. I mean, like, this is the worst team in the NFL. So you have the worst team in the NFL, all of a sudden is supposed to make like a 4 to 5 win jump. What did I say? 6 to 7. Yeah. I mean, 6 to 7 wins. 6 to 7, either 3 or 4 wins. Just boom. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, we keep saying it, but like, even if the Saints are just the same, as they were last year, that still doesn't make them that much worse than Tennessee. Right? Like, if Tennessee even takes a step forward of 2-3 games. So I would take a look at those. Let's run through them again. So the Cardinals one is back up, still 3.5, but the Cardinals are taking money, so this is going to move. This is going to end up moving. But 4.5 seems like a lot. Like, so maybe you get down on the Saints. You get down on the Saints plus 4.5, and you come back and take the Cardinals minus 3.5 and middle it at 4. You feeling crazy? You feeling nuts? Cardinals win by 4. Feeling insane? Scoop the board. All right, we got 3.5, 7, 6.5 on the road, 12.5 against the Bills, 1.5 against the Giants, 3 against the Patriots, 7.5 against the Bears, 5.5 against the Bucks, 9.5 against the Rams. So the Rams are 3.5 points better than the Seahawks. What they're saying. And the Rams are equal to the Bucks, is what they're saying, because the Bucks are 9.5 as well at home. All right, so if we're looking at this, and the Saints are plus 4.5 against Carolina, and they're plus 9.5 against the Bucks at Tampa, then that means that they think the Panthers are 5 points worse than the Bucks. Which then, if you on a neutral, which then if you add home field, the Panthers should be 7.5 point dogs at Tampa, if that all lines up. So let's see if it does. And like this just like outrageous cross-referencing is what you have to do. This is what it's all about. And there you go. The Panthers are plus 7 against Tampa. So that lines up. And then 7's a key number, so they're afraid to move off the 7, I understand. So, you know, that pretty much adds up. Right? And you can do that with every game. Saints were what? 7.5 at Chicago. So that means the Lions are considered to be basically 9 points better than the Saints on a neutral. So stuff like that, ladies and gentlemen. That's the fun kind of stuff that you can do with the schedule. Now, a lot of other people are just going to say, "Oh, no primetime games They're going to say, "Oh, we play whatever." They're just going to do it. But this is how you got to do it. You got to dig deep. You got to dig real deep into this. And this is what I will do every day for hours for the next 3 months. This is what I'll do. I'm going to throw my phone away, and then every single day, I'm going to go through these games and see where the movement's been. And we go through and we look at the movement, and we go through and see what moved and what didn't move, and what's short and what's not short. All right, so here's another one. So Falcons at the Saints. So Saints plus 2.5 at home. So that means on a neutral, the Falcons are like 4.5 points better. That means at Atlanta, they should be 6.5. But they weren't that high, right? They were like, they're 4.5. Okay. So this something's off here. All right. If the Saints are plus 2.5 at home, this is, if you like Atlanta, this is a little short, I think. Or I guess the Saints game plus 2.5 here. All right. So again, take 2 for home field. Now, granted, I'm saying 2. The books could be doing 1.5. The books so it's not. So it's a little, it's a little arbitrary. But what I'm saying is Saints plus 2.5 at a neutral that goes to 4.5. At Atlanta goes to 6.5. All right. So I guess they're thinking it's not that severe, because if you do 1.5, or let's just do 1. If you do 1 point for home field advantage, then you go plus 3.5 at a neutral, plus 4.5 at Atlanta, which lines up with what they have. So I might be a little strong on the home field. 2 is kind of strong, especially divisional like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But still, if you like Atlanta, this might seem a little short. But, All right. But this is what it's all about. Overall, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to win. I would consider anything under a coin toss, or anything under 3 a coin toss. All right, so I would consider the Saints have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say Tennessee. I think the number's crazy. 6. So they have 6 coin flip games. 6 games where it's like, all right, it's not insane to win this. It's not insane to lose this. It's going to be right there. Which lines up with the win total, right? Well, lines up with the win total for the Saints, which is, their win total, it's basically 5 or 6, is what they're saying. They're saying under 5, so 5, and then, over's not that crazy either. Under 7.5, so I think 5 and 6, which lines up where 6 coin toss games, you sweep all those. Now, what I like to do is I like to say you're going to split your divisional games, right? So it just tends to play out like that. Now, some of those aren't coin toss games, right? So like Saints plus 5.5 against the Bucs at home, that's not a coin toss. But if you're saying they split, more than likely they win the home divisional games, right? Same with so the Bucs is the real question mark there, because if you do split with the Bucs, you can get this up to 7 wins. But when you take a look at this schedule, and you're like, well, the Saints are going to win 11 games. It's like, yeah, that's a little high. That's a little bit high. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. This Bears number seems high to me. I'm not that high on the Bears. I think they're okay, but they're a 5-win team. Like, do I think they're going to take that big of a jump? I don't know. It seems like a lot. All right. What's the Bears win total? 8, 7 or 8. Yeah, it just seems like a lot. But yeah, I mean, you look at this, and like saying like 11, 12 wins for the Saints, or 10 wins is the floor. Like, that's probably not the case. Saints are a super high volatility team. Same with teams like Tennessee, where there's so much unknown. If Cam Ward's next Jay Daniels, yeah, they could win 10 games. If Tyler Shuck is really good or Spencer Rattler's really good, yeah, the Saints could all of a sudden, a lot of these games flip. All of a sudden, the Saints, they're not dogs at home to Carolina, right? They're not dogs at home to the Giants if Tyler Shuck is good. So some of those could flip, but I think this squarely puts the Saints at 5 wins as a floor somewhere in there. It's not really, honestly, it's not even true. The floor is really low because you're dogs in every game except one. So if things just play out how they are supposed to play out, like if that just happens, then the floor is like 1-2 wins. So, and then the ceiling, looking at this right now, granted, we haven't even seen Tyler Shuck play. Okay, we haven't even seen Spencer Rattler really get going. So, it's hard to do this, but I would say the absolute ceiling is probably 9 wins. Like, you win those at the absolute best. At the absolute best, you beat. I mean, it's hard to say you're going to win your first game. I mean, it is at home. Absolute best, I guess, you beat Arizona. You beat the Giants, beat the Patriots. I was going to say beat the Bears, but you're going on the road. Let's just leave that one. You beat the Bucs at home. Beat the Falcons at home. Beat the Panthers at home. That's 6. Beat the Jets 7. Beat the Titans 8. Absolute best I'm seeing is 8 or 9 wins, barring something insane happening, like Tyler Shuck being the Rookie of the Year or something. So super high volatility, right? You got 1 win floor, 2 wins floor, 9 wins ceiling. So all right, but that was the first look at the schedule. I know this was all over the place. We're doing this live. Not literally live, but I'm doing this live. I haven't, done any of this research. So that's what I would do if I was you pretty much every day. Like, if you just want to see where things stand, how things are looking, cross-reference these teams, just pick a random team. You pick, like the Raiders. Like, you pick the Raiders, you go back and look at any common opponents, like the Bears, you do the math. The Saints are whatever, plus 7.5 on the road against the Raiders. So then you can flip it and see the power rating. Let's see if there's any the Patriots. So the Raiders are plus 3.5 on the road against New England. And we were 3 or 3.5. We're playing them at home, right? We're playing them at home. Okay, so there's a drastic difference in the Raiders and the Saints, which makes sense, I guess. I think the Raiders are way better than the Saints this year. Let's see. So we don't have any tried and true. So the common opponents are whatever I said, the Bears and the Patriots. Who's another team that's similar? I guess we do Falcons. But we already know the answer to that. They play each other. But we already know what the power ranking comparison is. So who's another team in that kind of world? The Jaguars, they're kind of in that tweener world. Carolina, on the road, Jacksonville is plus 3.5. And Carolina on the road at the Saints is plus or minus 1.5, right? So that's pretty steep. I mean, they're saying Jacksonville's a lot better than us. Let's see. Jacksonville plays Seahawks at home. A crazy travel for Seattle. Yeah, see, like they're flipping all these games. Like they play teams we play, but they're playing them like in different situations. Texans aren't really a tweener team, but just seeing. Okay, Texans are -1.5 against the Bucks, and we were what were we? So they're -1.5 at home against the Bucks. Saints at home against the Bucks are 5.5. So +5.5. And then the Texans, Bucks. Where are right here? -1.5. So there you go. Like those cross references, that you just got to kind of chart them out and do your own due diligence. Titans Tennessee -5.5. So again, if you did 1.5, if Tennessee's at home, Tennessee's all of a sudden now it's 4 on a neutral, and then 2.5 at home. So Tennessee be +2.5 at home. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, long video, a lot of rambling, a lot of just breaking this stuff down. We'll be talking about the schedule a lot. We'll be updating this, just kind of what's changed, odd movement, stuff like that. Big takeaways from this is that the Saints are power rated as probably the second or third worst team in the NFL. Right around the Jets, right around Cleveland, right around those teams. I think some of it's a little off, but there's a huge volatility. There's a huge volatility in just the unknown of Kellen Moore, the unknown of Tyler Shuck, the unknown of Spencer Rattler. You do kind of have to take your black and gold sunglasses off during this, because it's easy to be like, no, we're not losing to San Francisco at home. But then you see the line, and you're like, well, I mean, it's a 7-point line. Okay, maybe we could, if it's a 3.5, 4.5, okay, but 7, it's like, Same with the Bears. I got 7.5. Winning as an winning on the road as a 7.5-point dog. It's like, that's easier said than done. So I get it. I get wanting to say, no, we can beat this team and that team and this team and that team, but sometimes you got to look at it objectively and just kind of say, okay, well, these are the spots you got to win. These are the spots you can win. So, all right. Like I said, we'll be updating this, talking about this throughout. We're getting to where we can actually look at numbers. We're getting to where we can actually look at things. And that's what it's all about. That's like the best part of this, is where the hypothetical stuff is kind of out. The hypothetical stuff is out. Now you can kind of really get down to brass tacks. I mean, this is the fewest wins, which again, if you look at what we just looked at, this lines up, right? Like this tells you, okay, well, we just went through cross-reference to power rankings. Very easy to see. These are the teams that are considered the worst. Very easy to see. Cleveland, Saints, Giants, Jets. Like, yeah, okay. Because those are the shortest. Those are all the shortest odds, and the odds that cross-reference the best. And then there's a big jump to the Tennessees, the Raiders. I think the Raiders are way too low. I think the Raiders are good. Not good, but I think the Raiders are better than people give them credit for. Indy's interesting. Indy's an interesting one. Let's see. What are the Colts? Do we have any similar opponents? So the Colts are +1.5 at Tennessee. So the Colts are 2 points better than us, is what they're saying. Because we were +3, right? Or we were +3.5. Yeah. So the Colts are like 2.5-ish points better than us. But this has them at 3. Because the Rams, we were 9.5. So one of these, well, it's a divisional game. So I guess they might be giving them something for a divisional game there. So the Colts are 2.5 to 3 points better than us, considered on the power rankings. which, let's see, Arizona is 1.5. Yeah, which lines up, right? Isn't it crazy? Like, I know it makes total sense, but it is kind of crazy how it matches up perfectly, right? Like, Arizona's 1.5. We just said, like, okay, they think the Colts are 2.5 to 3 points better than us. And then you remember, like, oh yeah, against us, the Cardinals are 3.5 and 4.5. It's like, oh well, that lines up exactly perfectly. So amazing. They're good at what they do, ladies and gentlemen. They're good at what they do. All right. Falcons 1.5, which again adds up, right? So, okay. If some of this math was wrong, I was just kind of spitballing, all in the dome here early morning. So my apologies if there's any math I messed up there, but surely y'all won't skewer me in the comments section. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, let me know. You are a hero. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next video.